The following passage is from Winston Churchill's Blood, Toil, Tears, and Sweat, addressed to Parliament on May 13, 1940. Answer questions 1 through 3 over the following passage. I say to the House, as I said to ministers who have joined this government, I have nothing to offer but blood, toil, tears, and sweat. We have before us an ordeal of the most grievous kind. We have before us many, many months of struggle and suffering. You ask, what is our policy? I say, it is to wage war by land, sea, and air. War with all of our might and with all of our strength God has given us, and to wage war against a monstrous tyranny never surpassed in the dark and lamentable catalog of human crime. That is our policy. You ask, what is our aim? I can answer in one word. It is victory. Victory at all costs. Victory in spite of all terrors. Victory, however long and hard the road may be. For without victory, there is no survival. I take up my task in buoyancy and hope. I feel sure that our cause will not be suffered to fail among men. I feel entitled at this juncture, at this time, to claim the aid of all and to say, come then, let us go forward together with our united strength. Number 1, what is Churchill's purpose in saying the things he does? A, to persuade the Parliament to vote for war against those who had attacked this country in a surprise attack. B, to unite the Parliament in their war and to make clear all will be called upon to make sacrifices in order to gain victory. C, to inform the Parliament as to what his policy will be in the war that this country is presently engaged in. D, to explain to the Parliament his policy and plans were for fighting the war that the country was presently engaged in. Number 2, what is Churchill's perspective towards the outcome of the war? A, he is unsure the country can win the war. B, he is concerned the country is not prepared for the war. C, he is concerned that too many will die in order to win. D, he is absolutely confident the country will win. Number 3, which statement below would Churchill most likely agree with? A, God is on their side and he will give the country victory. B, their enemies are tyrants and will make mistakes allowing Britain to win the war. C, if the country will remain united, then there is no way they will lose. D, if they are lucky, this war could possibly be won quickly and without much loss of life. The following passage is written by Jim Murphy and is taken from his novel The Great Fire. Read the passage and answer questions 4 through 6. Chicago in 1871 was a city ready to burn. The city boasted having 59,500 buildings, many of them, such as the courthouse and the Tribune building, large and ornately decorated. The trouble was that about 2/3 of all of these structures were made entirely of wood. Many of the remaining buildings, even the ones proclaimed to be fireproof, looked solid, but were actually jerry-built affairs. The stone or brick exteriors hid wooden frames and floors, all topped with highly flammable tar or shingle roofs. It was also a common practice to disguise wood as another kind of building material. The fancy exterior decorations on just about every building were carved from wood, then painted to look like stone or marble. Most churches had steeples that appeared to be solid from the street, but a closer inspection would reveal a wooden framework covered with cleverly painted copper or tin. The situation was worst in the middle class and poorer districts. Lot sizes were small, and owners usually filled them up with cottages, barns, sheds, and outhouses, all made of fast-burning wood, naturally. Because both Patrick and Catherine O'Leary worked, they were able to put a large addition on their cottage despite a lot size of just 25 by 100 feet. Interspersed in these residential areas were a variety of businesses: paint factories, lumber yards, distilleries, gasworks, mills, furniture manufacturers, warehouses, and coal distributors. Wealthier districts were by no means free of fire hazard. Stately stone and brick homes had wood interiors and stood side by side with smaller wood frame houses. Wooden stables and other storage buildings were common, and trees lined the streets and filled the yards. Number 4, which perspective about the districts of Chicago is presented by the author? A, the wealthier districts are built to better protect against fires starting than the poorer districts in Chicago. B, not enough information is known about how the wealthier districts were built and to how well they would have dealt with fire. C, the wealthier districts are just as likely to suffer a major fire as both the poorer and middle-class districts. D, both the poorer and wealthier districts were built with materials that were better suited to protect against fires starting. Number 5, what is the likely purpose of the author in writing this piece? A, to persuade present architects to better build cities to protect from fires starting. B, to inform readers as to why the Great Fire of 1871 started in Chicago. C, to entertain readers by telling stories about the Great Chicago Fire of 1871. D, both to inform and entertain readers as to the Great Chicago Fire of 1871. Number 6, what is the author's perspective towards Chicago's buildings in 1871? A, paint factories, lumber yards, distilleries, gasworks, and mills in the middle-class districts were the reason for this area being fire hazards. B, Chicago's wealthier districts were built of stately stone and brick homes and better suited to protect from fires. C, no matter what area or what type of building in Chicago, all buildings were built in such a way as to allow fires to quickly move and consume the city. D, the government buildings were ornate and stately and were solidly built and partially suited to be fireproof. The following passage was written by Jan Greenberg and is entitled Vincent van Gogh, Portrait of an Artist. Read the passage and answer questions 7 through 10. On March 30th, 1853, the handsome, soberly dressed Reverend Theodorus van Gogh entered the ancient town hall of Groot Zundert in the Brabant, a province of Netherlands. He opened the birth register to number 29, where exactly 1 year earlier he had sadly written, Vincent William van Gogh, stillborn. Beside the inscription he wrote again, Vincent William van Gogh, the name of his new healthy son, who was sleeping soundly next to his mother in the tiny parsonage across the square. The baby's arrival was an answered prayer for the still grieving family. The first Vincent lay buried in a tiny grave by the door of the church where Pastor Van Gogh preached. The Vincent who lived grew to be a sturdy red-headed boy. Every Sunday on his way to church, young Vincent would pass the headstone carved with the name he shared. Did he feel as if his dead brother were the rightful Vincent, the one who would remain perfect in his parents' hearts, and that he was merely an unsatisfactory replacement? That might have been one of the reasons he spent so much of his life feeling like a lonely outsider, as if he didn't fit anywhere in the world. Despite his dramatic beginning, Vincent had an ordinary childhood, giving no hint of the painter he would become. The small parsonage, with an upstairs just 2 windows wide under a slanting roof, quickly grew crowded. By the time he was 6, he had 2 sisters, Anna and Elizabeth, and 1 brother, Theo, whose gentle nature made him their mother's favorite. Number 7. Which statement best describes the author's attitude toward Vincent van Gogh? A. Vincent van Gogh was an answer to a prayer that his parents prayed often to their God. B. Vincent van Gogh was never able to escape the shadow of his dead brother, and the dead brother haunted him all of his life. C. Vincent van Gogh was treated as special by his parents and was a replacement for his dead older brother. D. Vincent van Gogh had a humble beginning, and no one would have ever guessed he would become the great painter he did become. Number 8. Which statement listed below would the author of this article most likely agree? A. Vincent van Gogh was lucky to be alive. B. Vincent van Gogh doubted how his parents felt about him. C. Vincent van Gogh didn't associate with many people in life. D. Vincent van Gogh's childhood had an impact on him later in life. Number 9. What is the author's purpose for writing this article? A. To entertain the reader with a fictional story about a young boy who grows up and becomes famous. B. To inform the reader about little-known facts about a famous painter. C. To persuade the reader that the way a person begins life has a huge bearing on how they turn out later. D. To inform and persuade the reader to highly value your family, including parents and brothers and sisters. Number 10. According to Jan Greenberg, how much of an influence did religion play in Vincent van Gogh's childhood? A. Greenberg gives no indication that religion had any influence in Vincent van Gogh's life. B. Greenberg implies that religion was the underlying reason why Vincent van Gogh was able to succeed in life. C. Greenberg suggests that the family's faith in God was the anchor that gave them hope and enabled them to treat Vincent van Gogh so well. D. Greenberg states that Vincent van Gogh's pastor father was able to love Vincent with all of his heart because his belief and trust in God.